Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Good day, learners. Welcome to Eko Learners Support for NECO and WAEC candidates. Today, I'll be taking the subject history. My name is Salau Abubakar Olaoluwa. The topic we'll be looking at today is the definition of history. This is a very topic that is important to the whole subject of what history is to self. Now, the topic we are looking at is the definition of history. So, at the end of the lesson, students will be able to, number one, define what is history, which is be able to explain the meaning of history, which is the subject. Number two, students should be able to explain what objectivity in history is. And lastly, students should be able to discuss why we study history. So, what is history? History is the systematic study and documentation of important events. History doesn't only look at the documentation of important events and peoples alone. It also cuts across the study of human activities that involve both the trade, the activities, the cultural activities, sporting events, and every other thing that has to do with human life. History doesn't only look at important personality, but a whole of events that happens in human's life. Then we'll also look at the origin of history. History as a word originates from a Greek word which means historia, and that historia means to know. It also means investigation and the knowledge of knowing something, the ability to know something through investigation. So from this meaning of what history is, we should know that history is not just about sitting down and formulating stories. History is about partaking in an event or investigating what happens in an event. And according to the Western society, Herodotus, a 5th century historian and also a philosopher, is being regarded as the father of history. But in the Eastern world and in the Arab world, Ibn Khaldun and Ibn Battuta are two important scholars that are also regarded and referred to as the father of history in those places. Then we'll also look at historical studies. When we look at historical studies looks at what history studies and what historical analysis is all about. We will look at the prehistoric study. When we are looking at prehistoric studies has to do with the study of human activities when writing is not yet in existence. And when we are looking at prehistoric study or the history of prehistoric time relies heavily on the painting on the walls, the drawing on wood, carving, and other items, and majorly the archaeological remains and materials that have been discovered are what also help in the study of prehistoric studies. Then we also look at ancient civilizations. When we are looking at the study of ancient civilization in history, we look at period of time when writing is already in existence, and these civilizations are civilizations that have been in existence for a very long time before our time. And in the study of ancient civilization like the Mesopotamia, ancient Egyptian, the Chinese people, record keeping is already in existence as at this time. And the record that have been kept, like the scroll, writing on the tablets, and also writing on materials, this help in studying and understanding of the ancient civilization. Then lastly, we look at modern history. When we look at modern history has to do with the study of contemporary time, whether in the early century before us or the current century we are living at, which we can easily understand, which we can easily follow and relate with. Then we look at objectivity in history. When we are talking about the topic of objectivity in history, objectivity is very central to what history is, because objectivity in history let us know that historians should be free from bias, from emotions in doing their historical research. Objectivity in history let us know that tells researchers or historians that they should remove emotions and remove themselves from whatever they are researching or from whatever they are studying. It means that things should be written the way it is, without manipulation, without putting personal bias or emotions. So we also look at the factors that affect objectivity in history. The reason why we are looking at the factors that affect objectivity in history is that it is believed that total objectivity is not attainable in history because of human nature. As we are human beings, our nature affects us in achieving total objectivity. Though total objectivity cannot be achieved in history, but it is encouraged that historians and researchers, as much as they can, they should encourage themselves and they should strive to always make sure that they attain high level of objectivity while undergoing historical study or historical research. And when we are looking at the factors that affect objectivity in history, we will look at the nature of historical events, we will look at the selection of historical materials, the way historical event happens. It may, people that are writing about it may not favorably or vividly understand it, and it will affect the objectivity in history. Then we look at the nature of materials, the type of materials and historians collected in the reconstruction of past events can also affect the level of objectivity that will be attained in the work. Then we look at cultural background and ideological inclination, the personality of the researcher, the interpretation, social pressure, and we also look at interest, because you cannot, we all know that sometimes research are being sponsored. So the interest of the sponsorer of the research has a lot to do with the way objectivity can be achieved in history. We also look at the social interpretation. So in interpretation of materials, because the time event happens is different from the current time the researcher is writing on it. So it may be the gap in the civilization, the gap in the culture, the gap in the understanding of the society at which the society and the time at which an event occurs will also affect the achievement of total objectivity in history. Then we also look at the role of an historian. When we are looking at the role of an historian serve several purposes in the society. Historians serve as a researcher, someone who goes to archive, who collected a different material for us in order to be able to reconstruct the past that doesn't actually happened in his presence. Then and historians also serve as an interpreter. Historians interpret documents, they interpret materials, they try to understand the past based on artifacts and material remains that can be collected to understand the past. Also, historians serve as an educator. Just like I'm standing here in front of you, educating you, historians serve as an educator who teach in the classroom and who also enlighten people about things and events for better understanding. Then also historians serve as a storyteller. Historians are important people that tells us stories that tells us interesting stories about our past, about events that has happened before us, and this will help us to be able to understand our present and predict the future. So we'll also be looking at the importance of history. One importance of history is that it helps us to understand the present by understanding the past, and it also aids us to predict the future. Also, history is a discipline in universities. History serves as a discipline which people study in university and also provide empowerment and employment to people. Then also, history helps us to understand knowledge of the world and society we live in, because history helps us to understand the society at large, because when you understand this, when you read the story and know the story of other people, it will help you to understand the way they are behaving and why things are different between your own society and their own society. Then also it promotes nation building and integration. History, the understanding of history of people within a nation help us to create understanding and mutual respect, and it helps a nation like Nigeria to unite the diverse ethnic group that are within it. So we'll also look at the relevance of history in modern times. It's the understanding of global issues. For example, now in modern times, history helps us a lot. History has a lot to do for us in understanding what is going on around us. For example, now when you know the historical background to crisis, it will help you to understand the phenomenon of what is happening in the present. For example, now when we look at the crisis in the Middle East, when you understand the historical perspective of how those events or how those issues started, you will be able to understand how and why it is very difficult and hard to resolve in time. Also, it helps in civic engagement. And history help in civic engagement and also the understanding of personal and cultural identity, because a lot of things are happening in the world now that people has forgotten their identity. The study of history will help us to pass the knowledge of our cultural heritage down to the younger ones. So also, practice question. The first practice question here is, what are the challenges to achieving objectivity in history? As we've earlier stated, objectivity in history cannot be totally achieved, and the challenges that is related to achieving objectivity in history has to do with the nature of the research itself. Number one, the reason for undergoing a research, the nature of material that is available to the researcher, the interpretation, which is understanding of the material that is available, the socio-cultural differences and gap between the time the event happens and also the time the historian is trying to reconstruct the event. Then the second practice question we'll be looking at is, mention the importance of history to nation building. It is also important to know that historians has been a very great leaders around the world. When we look at many great leaders around the world, they've once in a while or they've once at a time been an historian. History has helped us History has helped us to create social harmony among the citizens. It has also do what? It has also helped in preserving cultural heritage of people within a nation. Then we'll also look at the mentioned roles played by historians in the society. We have 4 major roles that historians do play in the society. Historians play the roles of a researcher. Historian plays the roles of a storyteller. Historian plays the role of an educator. Thank you for listening.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
If you have any comment, reservation or observation, please get in touch with us through the social media handles that's displayed on the screen. Thank you.